What's going on, everybody? Welcome back into the FantasyPros YouTube channel. My name is Lucas Wenzel, and today we're going to be talking about 10 players on the waiver wire I am looking to stash ahead of this weekend's slate and ahead of next week's waivers as well. But before we dive into any of that, if you want your chance at winning a signed Amari Cooper Cleveland Browns jersey, courtesy of our friends over at Pristine Auction, you need to subscribe to the FantasyPros YouTube channel right now and comment below on this video. That's it. That's all you need to do. We will be announcing a winner right here on the channel, so make sure to turn on those notifications so you can be alerted when new episodes are up and to claim your prize when we announce it. Jaylen Warren has been getting a ton of buzz during the Steelers bye week, so if you haven't stashed him yet, this might be one of your last chances of doing so. He's still available in about 80% of Yahoo leagues, and Mike Tomlin was somewhat cryptic when talking about Warren's role going forward, but he said, quote, "He's a quality back who has made some plays. We'll keep giving him an opportunity to do so, and maybe he'll write that script," end quote. Warren has definitely made some plays. He's top 10 in true yards per carry and has averaged nearly 6 yards per touch. His opportunity share even jumped from 16% in week 7 to 39% in week 8, and all of our context clues are saying that it should continue to rise going forward. This is the point in the season as well where if you don't have your handcuff running back rostered, it could sink your season should anything happen to someone like Najee Harris. Jaylen Warren is clear and away my number one stash this week, and he should be yours as well. Ever since Jay Glazer came out earlier this week and said that Odell Beckham Jr. should be fully cleared by the end of the week, his roster percentage has absolutely skyrocketed. At the time of this recording, Odell hasn't signed anywhere, but there are plenty of teams who could desperately use his services. Baltimore, who's now without Rashad Bateman. Green Bay, who's without Romeo Doubs for 4 to 6 weeks. A homecoming to the Giants, who desperately need an alpha presence. At any rate, plenty of teams will be interested in Odell Beckham, and he shouldn't have a hard time finding a new home. Keep in mind, though, it will likely take Odell a few weeks to get integrated. He won't be an immediate plug and play, but this is why he's a great stash candidate. It feels like we're getting a new running back 2 for the Chargers every week, but it should say something that Isaiah Spiller was Austin Eckler's clear backup fresh off of their bye. He was given 7 rushing attempts and ran for 29 yards, good for just over 4 yards per carry. Sony Michel hadn't done anything to maintain the backup job for the Chargers, and there's also a legitimate possibility that Spiller could continue to spell Eckler of more rushing work in future weeks. You don't love the matchup with San Francisco this week, but he gets the Chiefs, Cardinals, Raiders, and Dolphins the 4 weeks after, all of which are great matchups. This is another classic case of stashing your studs backup as a safety valve at this point in the season. The Giants went on bye last week, and it feels like people have forgotten that Darius Slayton was the leading wide receiver for the Giants in week 8. I would agree with the consensus that Wan'Dale Robinson is the Giants wide receiver you want, but Slayton has seen at least 6 targets in 3 of his past 4 games and has been worthy of a flex play in each of those. My guess is that the Giants run all over Houston this week, but looking ahead, Slayton gets Detroit, Minnesota, and Washington twice in 4 of the next 6 weeks. Darius Slayton is not a sexy name at all, whatsoever, but for a team that has very few pass-catching options, Slayton can still put up roster-worthy numbers. If Isaiah Pacheco got dropped to your waivers because of his disappointing output on Sunday, now is the time to go scoop him up. GameScript was not in favor of the new starting running back for the Chiefs. The Titans were up 2 scores for a good chunk of this game, requiring Patrick Mahomes to throw 68 times, and that forced pass-catching back Jerick McKinnon to be on the field a ton. Pacheco has shown he's capable of breaking off a big run at any point. He's 18th in breakaway run rate. And looking at his next 2 weeks as well, he gets the Jaguars, who have given up the 6th most fantasy points to running backs this year, and the Chargers, who have given up the 3rd most. And if we really want to look a ways down the road, Pacheco gets Houston and Seattle the first 2 weeks of the fantasy playoffs. This Texans wide receiver room is a mess right now, but at the time of this recording, Nico Collins has been practicing in limited fashion this week. He sat out the past 2 games with a groin injury, but is eyeing a return in week 10 against the Giants. Collins was a frequent flyer on my waiver stashes prior to his injury because his snap count was increasing every week to start the year, and he was and still is top 10 in both average depth of target and yards per reception. He's even 14th in yards per target. If this Brandon Cooks saga continues on the Texans, we could continue to see Collins get more and more involved just as he was through the first 7 weeks of the season. If you're a Joe Mixon manager, Samaje Perine should definitely be on your roster. The Bengals are on bye this week, and Joe Mixon is coming off a historic game against the Panthers, but as I've mentioned multiple times already, this is the point in the season where your handcuffs absolutely need to be rostered. Now is not the time you want to be losing matchups because you didn't ensure your stud running back. Perine's been solid with his limited touches this year as well. He's currently 7th in fantasy points per opportunity, 13th in true yards per carry, and is top 30 in both targets and receiving yards at the position. The standalone value isn't entirely there, but should anything happen to Mixon, this is also a great way to take advantage of your league mate who didn't want to roster their handcuff. Foster Moreau hasn't lived up to expectations at Darren Waller's fill in the past 3 weeks, but should Waller miss more time, that could definitely change. As of this recording, Waller is still only practicing in limited fashion, and in his absence, Moreau has been on the field a ton, seeing at least 96% of the snaps in each game. Carr's looking his way. He's received 5+ targets in each game, and the schedule coming up isn't too shabby. Out of the Colts, Broncos, Seahawks, and Chargers, the Broncos are really the only team that are worth shuddering at. It is absolutely possible that Waller's injuries linger the rest of the season, so Moreau is a semi-intriguing stash going forward. Yet again, we welcome another handcuff to the list. Kenneth Gainwell is rostered in only 15% of leagues and got a bit of run against the Texans on Thursday Night Football in Week 9. His 12.8 fantasy points elevated him to a running back 17 finish on the week, and when Gainwell is getting touches, he's capitalizing on them from a fantasy perspective. He's scoring 1.07 fantasy points per opportunity, which is 6th best at the position. I'm not going to sit here and tell you that Gainwell has standalone value or try to predict an injury for Miles Sanders, but it is worth noting that Sanders hasn't played a full season since his rookie year. Again, this is a handcuff scenario for managers who have been pleased with rostering Miles Sanders thus far and want to add a piece from one of the best offenses in the NFL right now. For whatever reason, Josh McDaniels really likes having Matt Collins out on the field because he has outsnapped Hunter Renfrow in every single game this year. He hasn't dipped below 85% of the snaps in any game. He has had 4 top 40 finishes at the position as well, and 3 of those were top 30 finishes. Hollins has run the 15th most routes amongst wide receivers this year and is 11th in route participation. His average depth of target is through the roof as well at 14.3 yards, which is 8th, and Carr is looking for him downfield. He's 14th in deep targets. In my mind, Matt Collins is far more rosterable than Hunter Renfrow, yet Hollins is rostered in 36% less of leagues than him. It's not a sexy stash at all, but Hollins should certainly be on more rosters. Alright, y'all, before I get out of here, remember, if you want your chance at winning a signed Amari Cooper Cleveland Browns jersey, courtesy of our friends over at Pristine Auction, you need to subscribe to the FantasyPros YouTube channel right now and comment below on this video. Maybe you really agree with the waiver stash I mentioned, maybe you totally disagree, but that's it. That is all you need to do. We'll be announcing a winner right here on the channel, so make sure to turn on those notifications so you can be alerted when new episodes are up and to claim your prize when we announce it.
Thanks for tuning in to the FantasyPros YouTube channel. Don't forget to check out our featured videos, and while you're at it, make sure to follow us on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter at FantasyPros, so you can get the latest news and updates to give you the edge you need in your fantasy league.